Welcome to the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast, where our goal is to help you increase your reputation as a leader, increase your ability to influence others, and increase your ability to fully engage your team to deliver remarkable results. Hi, I'm Perry Holly, a Maxwell Leadership Facilitator and Coach.
And I'm Chris Cody, Executive Vice President with Maxwell Leadership. Welcome and thank you for joining. Super excited to get to bring to you today a lesson that we literally just talked about.
Yeah.
We were together at one of our partners' events, and it was miserable. Well, the weather was miserable, and
The partner was great.
The partner was great, which he's now probably smiling because he's an avid listener. Which now he's the other listener. We were wondering, right?
Yeah, we found out.
Bonnie, Sarah, and then our partner. But we were talking about this, and we often talk about the 5 levels of leadership, and we talk about how, you know, you have level 2 where you got to be able to connect and build relationship with people to really gain influence. But then level 3 is, man, we got to produce. And Perry brought up something he's been working on a little bit, and he said, how do we go about connecting and communicating while at level 3, right? And so today's topic is improving your level 3 communication, which I love this because level 3 is about production. But in order to do that, you got to be able to communicate. So, hey, listen, if you want to download the learner's guide, or if you have a question, or again, as always, a topic for Perry to kind of dig in and figure out a lesson around, don't hesitate to go to maxwellleadership.com/podcast. There, if you'll click on this podcast, then you can fill out a form, and we would love to hear from you. So listen, again, let me go back and say this is something that is from the field, something that you've been coaching on recently, and all of us have to produce an organization, sometimes with more pressure than not. And what I love about our conversation we're going to pull out today is, even with that pressure at level 3 and what we need to do to our KPIs, we can't forget. We say you can never leave a level when you move up to the next level. And communication is so big when it comes to level 2 connection. So unpack a little bit more context for our listeners on what drove you coming up with this content today.
Yeah, I started with a coaching client, and he was struggling driving the results. People were disengaged, pulling back, giving half efforts, a little frustration, some maybe some anger, some things. And I just started pushing a little about what's going on, because I find him to be someone who is exceptionally good relationally. He knows his people. He cares about his people. I think he's done the level 2 work, but he kind of changed gears when he got to level 3, and really, he's a driver. He's really pushing, which many of us are, and that's great. But, kind of thinking, is your influence strong enough to carry you through level 3?
Yeah, that's good.
Is kind of the question that jumped in my mind. And I began, I like to teach about this greatest leap in all of leadership. And it really is that at level 1, people follow because they have to. Level 2, they follow you because they want to. I do think that is the greatest leap in all of leadership. What would make someone give you permission, which is the name of level 2, to permission to lead them, to influence them? And so when you start getting into level 3, this is where your credibility as a leader is found. This is where all the hard stuff happens. John will say, you're not a leader unless you produce results, and you won't be a leader very long if you don't produce results. So many of us, while we love level 2, especially you and I, we love level 2. We're specialists. We have to work hard at level 3. Right. But some of you are really specialists at level 3. You really drive results great, but you struggle with a little level 2. And so what got on into my heart and mind is can you increase your communication, change your communication around how you interact at level 3 to bring that level 2 influence with you in doing that. And that's really the whole thing came from, is that I can tell you more about where he was coming off the rails, but it really is just being a good results-driven, productivity, production level driver, leader was not really working.
Yeah, and our conversation from that really got us into a place of, you have to be doing both all the time.
Yes.
As a leader. And as we were driving around the golf course getting sopping wet.
In a hurricane. With
a really good heart. In a hurricane, we were just in this conversation, and we were just picking each other's brain. Well, this is what this means, and this is what this means. And it really was a little bit of an aha moment for us, going, yeah, like, in order to do level 3 really well, you still need to be doing level 2 really well.
That's where the title came from. You were saying something, I went, oh, it's really about level 3
communication. Yeah, that's right. It came to your mind.
Just write that down.
This is something that's very applicable to all of us, because like Perry said, we do have to produce, but man, we got to connect with our people. And what you want to do is continue to build trust upon trust with your people. And in order to do that, when times are tough and you're pushing, and you got to have that communication there, and that will drive connection. And so speaking of connection, John, obviously in the 21 Laws of Leadership, talks about the law of connection, and where he says, man, you got to touch a heart before you can even ask for a hand. So in this example, level 2 would be, how do I touch a heart? Some of you are like, it's a little bit too soft for me. I get it. Remember, it's about how do I connect with them? Because when you do that, it becomes real for them and you connect with them. Then you can ask for a hand in order to help produce. That's level 3. So the question is, putting it in terms like that, can you keep touching a heart while you're asking for their hand and stay connected, stay productive, and more importantly for you and I, as we teach about this all around the world, is that they'll stay engaged, because we need team members to be engaged, whether you're at level 2 or level 3 in this situation.
Yeah, and it's so easy to separate those. Well, we're going to have the one-on-one in my office, and I'm going to connect with you and get to know you and ask how I can help you and what are the obstacles in your way. We kind of have this bonding, and I feel like I love the word connecting with you. And then we're outside the office in the midst of the project, in the midst of the client deliverable, in the midst
goes out
of
the window.
and now we're not touching the heart. We're asking for the hand. Give me more. Push it. Can we do them at the same time? Can I change my communication or enhance my communication at level 3? And so level 3 is where all the hard things of leadership, because it's your credibility is wrapped up in setting the goal and setting expectations and establishing a standard of performance and holding people accountable, setting priorities. These are all hard things often to get communicated out, but can we do that? So I ran across this term. It's not my term. But I like to read and study, and I ran across this, and the guy used the term humble inquiry.
And you shared that with me the other day.
I said, I'm really thinking about this.
Yeah.
I'm really thinking about this. And so this is developed by a guy named Edgar Schein, and he's written a lot about it. But it's really communication that helps you kind of do more asking instead of telling, and maybe acting like you don't already know all the answers, and that your goal is building relationships. And I think about it, we talked about engagement. You mentioned that term about rowers, watchers, and sinkers. And your boat are the people with you when you're in the heart of the push, really doing the work. Are people rowing with you? Or are they sitting with the oar across their lap, watching the scenery go by, or worse yet, drilling holes in the bottom of your boat? Let's just leave the sinkers out. That's not coaching. That's an intervention. But can I move these watchers to be rowers so that everybody's engaged? And I think, to me, I like this idea of humble inquiry as a communication style at level 3. And I'm still learning. So I thought that's what I really want to share today, is what this is and how it can work and how it cannot work, to get people's ideas on that.
I appreciate you not making this the title, because often you guys know he tries to put a title in here that I can't pronounce very well. So humble inquiry is a little bit, right? It's hard to say.
Yeah, he said, I've seen it written both ways. So yeah, let's go with, we can say inquiry.
Inquiry.
We're going to agree on that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Humble inquiry.
Inquiry.
Oh, it's one word. Inquiry.
Let me go back real quick before we move on to this humble thing we're talking about here. When you were just talking about level 3 and level 2 and the heart and the hand, and we were talking about this, it made me think. Let me go back to when we were having this conversation. And I was not producing very well in this team event that we were a part of. And
very well or at all?
Okay. So I hesitated to bring this up, but now I knew I shouldn't have brought it up. And I was horrible, right? I hadn't played in a while. I mean, horrible. Yeah. I'm getting frustrated. I think my team's getting frustrated. But you know what I realized, Perry?
What's that?
Is that you and my buddy Brian, there was no touching a heart while I was not contributing at level 3. There was no connection with me. You were making fun of me.
And there was no humble inquiry.
There was no humble inquiry.
Like, what is your problem?
So I just wanted to bring this to attention. I think this lesson really is a follow-up on the fact that they weren't nice to me. Good. But it's so true. It's a very simple example, and I'm joking around a little bit about the example, but it's real, right? Like, I mean, I wasn't contributing, and we were having fun and a lot of laughs, but there was no level 2 connection there. But when you talked about this in the golf cart, we talked about this humble inquiry, like, it's so interesting in how you go about doing this. And part of connecting, remember, we're talking about this at level 3 and communication being the connecting part. You've got to ask more open-ended questions. You got to be able to draw out the best in the other person. It goes back to, like Perry says all the time, hey, I mean, I have a point of view, but tell me your point of view. And you open it up, because what you want is you want their thoughts, you want their perspective, and you don't want to make assumptions about what's going on or the issue at hand. And when you do that, you demonstrate that you're being genuine and you're really curious. This is a word. We talk about it.
Big word.
There's a couple of things that are big for us right now. I don't think leaders as a whole are consistent enough, and I don't think they're curious enough. And here we're talking about, man, how do you become genuinely curious and interested in the other person's view and experiences, not to defend yours against theirs, but to learn and to inquire from that. And so when you do that, man, the trust, the walls go down with your people, the trust goes up. They begin to feel psychologically safe, which we talk about that inclusive leadership in the course you designed for us. Yep. And you're really just showing that you value the other person. And we talk a lot about people want to be seen, valued, and heard. Yep. And I think if you go through this and you're humble and you're seeking out and you're curious, you're going to get that from them.
And when you're doing this inquiry and asking more than telling, you need to really up your listening game. It cannot just be for show, asking questions and go do your own thing. No, that you want to really hear from people and hear what they're saying. You might also ratchet up your vulnerability. Another word we talk a bit about is that you don't have all the answers. I need your help. I don't know what to do. Now, of course, you have an idea. Like you said, I have a point of view, but what do you think? And really inviting those ideas from other people, and it really pushing on what they say to gain deeper understanding of what they're saying. Now, I can hear leaders everywhere saying, wait a minute, how long is this going to take? I can just tell you what to do and push you to get it done. And I do my best, Dr. Phil, and say, how's that working for you?
Right.
And so this idea of vulnerability, developing trust and saying, I need you help. But here's the bottom line. It may take a couple extra minutes as you get into learning this humble inquiry, but over the long period or the long view on that, people will start to really adapt to your style. And we don't have to spend so much time building trust, and we have it. And now people tell you what they think, and now people bring ideas, and now they own the process. Now you don't have to push so hard because they want to. This is the leap again. I have to follow. I have to do what you say. No, I want to be a part of this. You hear me. I have a voice. Let's go.
That's good.
And it's not in our notes here, but this is a really big deal for your younger generation workers. They are not big on you being the boss and telling them what to do. They want to know, why are we doing it? What's the purpose in this? How do I fit into it? You can do all that through this inquiry process.
Hey, podcast listeners. Many of you listening right now would probably love the autonomy that comes with owning your own business or becoming a coach that helps other businesses succeed. Well, we have a phenomenal strategy where you are 100% in control of your own business, earning income on your own terms, and have access to the people, tools, and resources you need to build a thriving leadership development business. When you become a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team member, you join a global community of entrepreneurs led by our expert team of mentors and faculty, including John C. Maxwell. You'll also get one of the top leadership certifications in the world next to your name, giving you the boost you need to get started. Visit us online at maxwellleadership.com/join the team to find out more.
Yeah, I love it. And remember, let me just bring us back to what Perry's literally working with us on communication. The purpose of this and doing this is to improve communication, especially when there's a gap or there's a level between yourself and the individual that you're leading, or maybe it's yourself and your leader. So remember, the purpose of this humble inquiry is to improve communication, going back to what we talked about. At level 3, how do we stay so strong in communication that we do not lose connection with them? And I think it's key, not only peer-to-peer, but even more importantly, when there's a different level in the hierarchy, if you have levels between yourself and those you lead, or yourself and that leader. Here's the bottom line. If you use this humble inquiry appropriately, then your leadership approach is going to be significantly different than it has been in the past. And the team's going to realize that. It's going to drive engagement. It's going to drive enhancement. It's going to create a collaborative work environment, things that will raise the lid, right? It'll raise the tide, and all boats on the team will improve if you think about going about this the right way.
So let's get practical for a moment, because I hate to ever, it's a nice theory, but how does it actually, what does it look like? So you mentioned asking open-ended questions. To understand team member perspectives. That's fantastic. Some ideas around that would be, what are your thoughts on this project? So you're assigning work. Do they have a voice in that? How do you think we could improve this process? How we're doing things? Because they're closer to it. Do you ask, how do you see it? How can you help? Let's say you were trying to make decisions, and could you seek their input on decisions? You might say, I'm considering option A or B. What are the pros or cons for each? What do you think about that? You do that really well. You'll say, hey, we're thinking about going in this direction, and you'll say, I need some input. What do you see? What factors do you think we should weigh in making the decision? What's the most important things in making the decision? Or some ideas for that?
Yeah. Again, these are all just practical ideas for you as we work through this. A couple other examples is ask feedback on your own performance.
What?
Now, I think Perry purposely put this in here for me to ask because he wants to share that with me. But, Perry and I joke around a lot about using the statement, what does it look like to be on the other side of my leadership? Mm-hmm. Man, I would encourage anybody out there that's willing to ask that question of your team, then to be able to listen to that feedback. Ask them, what can I be doing differently? How can I better lead you? What does that look like? How can I better support you? The other thing is, man, inquire about challenges that the team is facing. I have the opportunity and the privilege to lead a couple of different teams. One of them is as a sales team. That is the number one question. What can I remove in order to get you to do what you're here and so skilled to do? What does that look like? What is difficult? We went through an exercise with our team just recently where we said, and it was interesting that one of our team members brought this up to me in one of our offsites. And so I posed the question. I tend to be a little bit positive all the time. What are the things that we do well we need to keep doing? We went through this great list. I was super proud of the team, and we narrowed it down. We said, in the next quarter, we're going to really focus on those two. And then I have one of my brilliant team members who's been with me a long time. She raises her hand and she speaks the truth, whether I like it or not. And she goes, why don't we ask the other side of that question? And so then now we're working through what are the things that we're doing that are challenges that are keeping us from having a great culture or a great production.
But that's another humble inquiry. You could ask for ideas and suggestions.
That's good.
How would you think we should solve this problem? If you were in charge, how would you approach the situation? Or another one you said about asking about needed resources or support. What resources would help you be more successful in this role? Is there any additional support you need from me or from the team? I just think there's so many great examples of practically not telling, more asking, but really listening, caring, being vulnerable, putting yourself in the mix with them and really building that relationship. But I'll go back to something you said earlier. You said, if done appropriately, this humble inquiry can really work if done appropriately. Are there some ways a leader can mess this up?
Absolutely. I love how you have taught me to always look at the other side to be able to kind of explain an issue, which tends to be the negative side, but it's real. And so absolutely we can mess this up. Here's some of the common pitfalls we want to share with you that we really would encourage you to try to avoid. Don't ask leading or biased questions. Now, let me just stop here for a minute. There is no doubt that you have felt and experienced leading questions. And someone's steering the conversation in a particular direction.
Leading the witness, Your Honor.
100%. And that this happens all the time. Matter of fact, I think some of us do it without even being aware. Like we're unconscious doing it because we have such a bias in a certain situation.
Wouldn't you prefer to do it this other way?
Right? Like, because you know that it is the right way to do it. Not truly listening. This is one of the things that, man, I really want you to have genuine curiosity and then listen really intently, actively listen and seek what they're trying to communicate to you. And then finally, this is a big one with us with influence, which is, man, make sure you have the right motive. Motive matters. So make sure that you are sincerely interested in the answers of the questions that you're seeking, because they'll feel that, they'll read right through that. And that will completely take away all of your influence.
Yeah, and they can tell if are you trying to manipulate me or motivate me, as John would say.
Yeah,
And so people can tell right away. I think you can also you can hurt yourself on humble inquiry by not being prepared to act. Somebody tells you something, someone gives you something. You don't have to do everything everybody says, for sure. That's not the game here. But are you asking that you have no intention of doing? That will burn that bridge in a quick hurry. Neglecting psychological safety, and I'll put this together, ignoring the power dynamics. If there's a hierarchy in your organization, and most do, if you're a supervisor or the boss and you're having humble inquiry with people that report to you, just be aware that there are some power dynamics that are always in play. But is it okay to tell you the truth? Is it okay to tell you what I think? Or would it be best if I just salute and stay mute and don't say anything because you can't handle the truth, type of a thing? So creating that psychological safety where it's okay to say what you think is a beautiful piece of that.
Well, as we wrap up, I have an action item for you and I have a story for you. And so let me give you the action items first, and I'm going to share stories as we close, and I'll throw it back to Perry. These questions that we just went through, Perry's provided for us. I love this, right? It's like, hey, let's get practical. We talked about what we're trying to do here. We want to make you not only a leader, or remember, leadership is influence. You don't have to have a position or a title to be leading people. So we want to make sure that when you're leading and influencing people, not only are you connecting with them, but man, you guys are getting something done, whatever that might be. And that while you're producing, you don't lose the connection with them. And so these are great practical things that I want you to go through these. And I want you to, we hear this a lot where people go, man, love the podcast. It's very applicable. It's short. I have my team listen to it. Then we get in our weekly meetings and we just say, hey, what was your number one takeaway? I want you to take this lesson, and you can do that. But I also want you to take one of these questions and begin to work through it as a team. Go around the table, share what's your, what is your perspective? What does that look like? How would you answer that question? And then make sure you're not falling for any of these pitfalls, right? Because there are some here I go, ooh, in that conversation today, like I'm reflecting today, a bunch of meetings, did I truly listen? I'll ask the question, but did I truly listen? And hold each other accountable to that. It's the only way that your team is going to get better. Now, let me share this story with you. And I was reminded by it by going through this lesson today. I happened to be on a trip last Thursday with John, and we went to Longview, Texas. And John spoke that night, and it was a lot of fun to be there. But the reason this comes to mind and why I gave you this application is because a young lady came up to me, and she's like, man, we absolutely love listening to your podcast. What we do is we take this, and then I share it wherever I can share it, and we talk about it, and man, it's so good. Well, what I want to tell you about the story is I said, hey, can you speak up a little bit about which podcast you're listening to? Because we happened to be in the green room, and I was standing right next to John Maxwell. And while I have the privilege to be with Mark and John on their podcast periodically, this is the one that I do with Perry. And I believe this is the one making a difference in the entire world. But she goes, oh yeah, no, I mean, I listen to your podcast, and you know who you are because you're listening right now, and you're going to take this and you're going to take it to your team. And I was like, so are you talking about like John's or the executive one with Perry and I? She goes, no, with you and Perry. I don't even know what the other one is. And I said, will you say that a little bit louder? Right. And John's just sitting right there. And so I said, I'm taking a picture with you because I got to send this to Perry. And so I took a picture and I sent it to Perry, and I said, Perry, I can't wait to tell you the story. And I made him wait till we got together, and I shared the story. A lot of fun. But what I share that with you because I just want you to be encouraged. Take this content and apply it with your team, with your family, with your peer group, whatever it might be. That's why we do what we do. And the greatest joy for Perry and I is that we know that around the world, wherever we go, people are coming up to us and saying, man, I listened to that. It added value to me, and I shared it with somebody else. Mm-hmm. And that's why we do what we do. So thank you for listening. Now, apply this content that Perry has put together for us and make your influence increase, but also do it in a way where the team produces together at a greater pace And as you're sometimes in heated conversations, you're communicating in a way that you don't lose that level 2 influence with each other.
Perfect. Well, great stuff, Chris. And thank you all. If you, as Chris mentioned earlier, if you'd like to get the learner guide for today's episode, if you'd like to leave a question or a comment, if you'd like to learn about our offerings or those other podcasts that might be out there, you can do all that at maxwellleadership.com/podcast. We love hearing from you. Very grateful that you spend this time with us. That's all today from the Maxwell Leadership Executive Podcast.
Are you ready to elevate your leadership to new heights? Join the movement towards High Road Leadership with John C. Maxwell's latest book. In High Road Leadership, John explores the power of valuing all people, doing the right things for the right reasons, and placing others above personal agendas. Learn how to inspire positive change and bring people together in a world that divides. Order now and receive exclusive bonuses, including a keynote on High Road Leadership by John Maxwell himself and a sneak peek into 3 impactful chapters. Take the first step towards becoming a high road leader. Visit highroadleadershipbook.com to order your copy today.